10 random magic cards rated, day number 23. I totally looked down at my notebook for that. I just wanted to make sure that I know what I'm doing, guys. So we want to look at the first card of the day. Happy Tuesday to you, by the way. Our first card is Battle of Wits. Yes. This is a good one to give, man. Battle of Wits is 5 mana. In case you've never seen this, if you're a relatively new player, get ready. Get ready to freak out. You've already read ahead of me. You cheated and read ahead of me. Come on now. It's 5 mana, 3 and 2 blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 or more cards in your library, you win the game. There are a lot of ways to do this. There have actually been Battle of Wits decks that showed up at large events. They don't typically do great, but they have at least been there. You know what I mean? So this is another card, man. It's good to start the day with a card with such a history, like such love and hate for it. You guys, it's so weird that people hate this card. You know, if you lost to a Battle of Wits deck, if I lost to Battle of Wits ever, and I've never done that, but if I've never played against Battle of Wits, but if I lost to Battle of Wits, my first instinct would be to shake my opponent's hand and say, good job. Wow. What are the chances? And so forth and so on. As opposed to like, I'm never going to play this game again and I hate Magic and whatever people do, you know what I mean? One time, at a card shop, Comics Plus in Macon, actually, which is closing after 35 years at the end of this month. And it's the saddest thing that I've ever been a part of. Anyway, not this, but I was playing Bridge from Below, a combo deck from 17 years ago now that kills on turn 2. And my opponent was playing like Savannah Lion's Unholy Strength. And when I won the game, he got up. He like threw his cards down that were in his hand. He threw them on the table and he got up and was like, that's exactly why I'm going to stop playing Magic. Decks like that is stupid. But like I've always had the exact opposite. When my buddy showed me Yawgmoth's Bargain for the first time, this deck wins on turn 3 through this like super convoluted combo engine that takes every card in your deck to actually work. I was like, this is Magic. You know what I mean? So I like weird combo decks that win relatively early through some Rube Goldberg machine sort of means. And Battle of Wits was never quite that, but it is like a super, super feels bad way for some people to lose a game of Magic. So I get it, but I also can't imagine having that much Searle in my life. You know what I mean? That if I lose to a deck like this, I'm like, have some fun. What you gonna play Magic differently every now and again, or are you gonna play the same game of Magic every time you shuffle up your cards? I like different stuff, and that's why Battle of Wits is okay. But I'm just gonna give it like a 4.3. Moving on, that was a lot to get to that score. Moving on to the Dragonkami Reborn here. I like this card. 3 mana, 2 and a green for a Saga, which is also an enchantment because Sagas are. On chapters 1 and 2, you gain 2 life, and then look at the top 3 of your library. Exile one of those face down with a hatching counter on it. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. On chapter 3, you exile this Saga, return it to the battlefield transformed under your control, and you get a Dragonkami's Egg. It is a 0/1 enchantment creature, which is an egg. And when it or another dragon, or any dragon you control dies, you may cast a creature spell from among cards you own in exile with hatching counters on them without paying its mana cost. Man, you can always tell when the card is somewhat newer because it is a mouthful. It's... So, that was so much reading. That was like getting through Hemingway to read this card. I tried this card on stream a bunch of times, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And it's one of those where when it works, it's really, really fun. You just get some ridiculous, 8-drop dragon or whatever. I really like that this can die. So your opponent just attacks with literally anything. You jump non-flyer, unblock, non-unblockable. And you can chump block with this and get yourself a dragon. Problem is, a lot of the time, because you're only looking at, 3 cards per chapter, it can be kind of tough to get a dragon or a creature. It can be kind of tough to get, a huge creature in those 6 cards. Sometimes you want more than one huge creature because you're playing dragons, right? But it is a really cool card with really neat design, and I've always kind of respected it on some level. So I'm going to give this a 4.61, you know what I mean? Not a very impressive card, but approaching average, mostly because of the ridiculous amount of text. I feel like Wizards thinks, it's got a lot of text on it, must be good. And half the time they're kind of right. So it kind of gains you 4 life, if nothing else, gives you a guy. It's fine. But we'll move on to Rubina. Rubina Soul Singer. I've actually seen more of the Chronicles one than the one from Legends. And I think the one from Chronicles is going to be worded better. Yeah. This is 5 mana, 2, a white, a blue, and a green. So Bant colors for a 2/3 legend, which is also a fairy. You may choose not to untap Rubina Soulsinger during your untap phase. Tap to gain control of a creature, lose control of creature if Rubina leaves play, or if you lose control of Rubina, or if Rubina becomes untapped. So this is kind of a Mtg Reborn from Ice Age, which was an Esper 3-drop legend. That is actually among my favorite commander. I believe the first commander video we ever dropped was Mtg Reborn. And it turns out that's also one of Post Malone's favorite commanders. Weirdly enough, lore. But yeah, Rubina Soulsinger is actually a neat commander to play for the same reason that Mtg is, tap to steal a creature. Don't untap her, I get your creature. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with that. Steal your opponent's creatures and then sacrifice them. You can untap your Rubina a bunch of times in a turn while sacrificing your opponent's creatures and kind of wrap the board. There's fun stuff you can do with this. And in a different color combination than Mtg, which can be important depending on what you're trying to do. So I fully support this. It's a 5-mana commander that you have to wait to untap to actually use it. And it's probably not going to be the best time in the world. Dies to bolt. A 5-drop that dies to cut down. I don't know how much you have to worry about that in commander, but it's a thing. So yeah, I don't know if I can full-throatedly endorse this card in 2024, but it's always been a fun Magic card. I'll give it a 5.6, and I know that seems kind of high if you're familiar with the series, but that's because I'm going to always have a lot of respect for not only Rubina, but just having this ability in your command zone can be very powerful. So find a way to give it haste and kind of off to the runnings. So cool card. Let's move on to number 4, Runeservator. This is a 2 mana for a 2/2 artifact creature. It's construct. And when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, everybody draws a card. It's actually seen some play from time to time. I've seen people play Runeservator. I think I may have even played it when it was in Magic Origins, which probably has... That's about the same. I was going to say it might have better art as far as the saturation goes. About the same. But yeah, what do you actually give this? A fine little utility dude. Does sometimes show up in Oops All colorless commander decks with colorless commanders. So it's a cute little card. 2 mana 2/2 as well. I'm going to actually give this a 5.3, which is so high. I kind of surprised myself with that. Should probably be a 5.1, but no, this actually, so sometimes I'll give cards a 5 and be it sees play here and there and kind of narrow and it's stupid, but it's okay. This is kind of one of those, but I think it's actually better than a lot of cards I talk about that way. So yeah, let's move on to Wrap in Flames. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a sorcery that deals 1 damage to each of up to 3 target creatures. These creatures cannot block this turn. This is not super great. Let's give it a 1.7. I think that's probably right. It's kind of drafty thing. I guess in limited, your guys can get through this turn. Your aggro deck can go unblocked. Sure, we'll try it. Moving on to, oh baby, it's Frodo. Here's Frodo of the 9 Fingers and the Ring of Doom. This is a single white mana for a 1/2 legendary halfling citizen. You can pay white-black hybrid. And if it's a citizen, it becomes a halfling scout with base power and toughness 2/3 and also has lifelink. If you pay 3 black mana, then if it's a scout, it becomes a halfling rogue with whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game if the ring has tempted you 4 or more times this game. Otherwise, ring tempts you. This is just a fine card. I hate the ring tempts you as a mechanic. I really don't like it. There will be people in this comment section, even though these are the least watched videos on the channel. It'll get 1.5K or something like that. There will be people in the comments who can by heart recite what the ring tempting you does. And I always forget. I always forget, dude. I know it has something to do with looting or rummaging or something, but then other stuff happens, and it depends on how many times the ring has tempted you. I'm pretty sure, because I've played with people playing with Lord of the Rings cards multiple times in Commander games. I've never played with anybody who plays with the ring tempting them as a mechanic. Mostly because most of the other people I play don't like that mechanic. So we just all kind of stay away from it. But at the end of the day, this is kind of this 3 mana for a 2/3 lifelink. That's just bad. No matter how you Slice it. It's not very good, but it is trying to do like a Hero of Destiny impression with the set mechanic and the flavor and the so I don't know. Just a 1 mana 1/2 that becomes a 2/3 lifelink for 2 mana is not the worst Magic card in the world. We have definitely judged many worse cards here on the series. So let's just give Frodo a solid 5. It probably deserves more. Can I just acknowledge it deserves more and you just like create engagement by being angry at me in the comments section? What would you give Frodo? I have no idea. We'll move on to Simulacrum. Simulacrum. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for an instant. You gain life equal to the damage dealt to you this turn. Simulacrum then deals damage to target creature you control equal to the damage dealt to you this turn. So, can't tell. Back in the day when I first started playing Magic, I had no idea what this card did. Probably because look at the actual text box. You may notice I read the Oracle text. If you look at the actual text box, all damage done to you so far this turn is instead retroactively applied to one of your creatures in play. If this damage kills the creature, it can be regenerated. Even though there's more than enough damage, even if there's more than enough damage to kill the creature, you don't suffer any of it. Further damage this turn is treated normally. I still have a hard time reading it. I really do. But, yeah, once you really parse it out, you know what that says as a Magic player when you've been playing for 30 years. When you've been playing for 3 days, you're like, what is this trying to say? You know, especially when you're 11 years old. But the card is actually kind of neat, but not neat enough. You may see that this version is $44. You get the 4th edition version for 28 cents. So it's not. Somehow the revised edition one is 23 cents. It's less than the 4th edition one. Revised is such a cool looking set, dude. I love the like super desaturated, almost like pastel version of the color palette that they went with for Revised. I love a nice unlimited edition card too. That's super heavy inking, but not actually very saturated artwork. But I gotta say, Revised is one of my favorite like aesthetics of all time. Why are Revised cards so cheap? Probably because of over speculation, if I had to guess. Can I rate this card? Can I actually talk about and rate this card? It's actually not super great, but do note that I guess you could target like your own Boros Reckoner or similar creature with this. And then, right. So that's Boros Reckoner. Whenever it's dealt damage, it does damage to a different target equal to the damage done to it. So there are a few cards like that in Magic that Simulacrum actually goes pretty well with, but I'm not going to give this more than like a 3. And that's probably pushing it, to be honest. I've given better cards a 2.6. Nostalgia's a hell of a drug. We'll move on to Plummet. Ooh, Plummet. Plummet. I am just plumb not sure what to give this. Plummet gets a 5. You know, it's just a normal Magic card. It's about as average as a Magic card gets. Actually, I'll say this is slightly above average. Plummet's a 5.1. Guess Your Fate. It's an uncard. The art is very cool. Gaia's Revenge, man. Oh boy. 7 mana, 5 and 2 green for an 8/5 elemental that cannot be countered, has haste, and cannot be the target of non-green spells or abilities from non-green sources. This was in Magic Origins and did like nothing against control. It did nothing in that format against control. It's like the thing it's meant to do a thing against. When it came out in Magic 2011, it did do stuff against control. This was one of the, I feel like one of the OG, like, stop it. This and Scragnoth, like 10 years before it. And yet you're welcome for the nostalgia hit. Scragnoth, really, really fun card. We'll get to it one day. But you just didn't see this line of text like that often, you know? I feel like 2011 is when they started printing this line of text more. Can't be countered. It's just a cool card, man. When Commander first came around in around 2007, I feel like that was probably the first time I heard of Commander, was like maybe 2008, something like that. But I'm sure it was around before that en masse. Like the masses knew about Commander before I did, probably. But in any case, Gaia's Revenge was played in Commander, and it was played in its original standard, but it is a forgotten memory at this point, if you can't tell by the pricing on it, 50 cents Mythic, 18 cents Mythic over here. Actually, it was downshifted to Rare for Origins because they knew. Who cares about Gaia's Revenge anymore? I do. I always will. I'm going to give Gaia's Revenge The Timmy, actually, I'm going to give Gaia's Revenge a 5.3, and the Timmy in me is going to give it an 8. But it's not an 8. Once a Timmy, always a Timmy. You like big creatures, you're always going to see them 30 years later. You will look at them and be like, it is pretty big though. You know what I mean? So I did an all around score of like 5.8. I'll just smash the scores together. 5 and 8 equals 5.8. Final card of the day is Implement of Ferocity from Ether Revolt. A single, why don't I remember this card? A single colorless mana, whatever, of any color. For an artifact, you can pay green. Oh, it's one of these. Pay green, sacrifice it. Put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, activated only at sorcery speed. And when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. I always liked these, and they saw no play. They saw 0 play. Except for in a couple of budget decks we did on the channel, but that's about it, you know. Cool. It's really not that bad, though. This is not too bad. 2 mana for a counter and a card draw. It's all sorcery speed, but, like, you know, I don't hate it. If you just pay 1 mana to get it out, and then you sacrifice it to something else for free, it's 1 mana, draw a card, put an artifact on the table. I don't know. It's not bad. I give it a 5.1. I'm in a very generous mood today, I think. So I don't think this deserves that. I'll give this a 4.4. Which is still too high, but I don't care. I tend to really, I'm a sucker for eggs, you know what I mean? Little stuff you can crack and get some sort of like value out of. So I will continue being a sucker, and my acknowledgement that I'm a sucker will not change my score. 4.4. Sure. Bars, man. That's all we got for today though, guys. That is all 10 of the cards, at least by my count. I got a pen and paper over here, and I'm putting a little tick mark every time I do a card. So maybe, who knows, but I think I got it right. I think I nailed it, but I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good Tuesday. Bye.